It's time for the Daily Planet podcast show. So sit back, relax, and give us a go. Scott and Matt and maybe a guest, undertaking an epic pod quest. We're gonna ramble on about movies and books and television and directors and film festivals and this really long list of stuff that I know nothing about, but they gave it to me and they really wanted me to read through it. And that's all I can really say about it, but it's gonna be great. Okay, start the show.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Planet podcast, your weekly podcast for all things movies, TV, books, and whatever else we feel like talking about. My name is Scott Daly, and I am your host, and I'm joined this week by my co-host and co-gunter, Matt Freeman. Matt, how's it going?
It's great, Scott. I've got the Vorpal sword. I've acquired the Halo suit and a authentic pulse rifle from the Aliens franchise. And I'm just looking forward to talking about that with you today.
But can you quote the entirety of War Games from start
I don't think
to
I've
finish?
ever seen War Games, actually.
Well, you're just not good enough.
Oh, so I'm out of the clan.
Yeah. So
Okay,
because
fair
you're
enough.
clearly not good enough, we had to bring in someone that actually knows what they're talking about. And we are joined this week by Daniel Freeman. Daniel, welcome back to the show.
Hello, I'm glad to be here, even though I was not alive in the 80s. So I don't know how much help I'll be.
Yes, if you have not noticed, we are talking about Ready Player One this week. We're a week behind, but I'm kind of glad we waited a little bit here because my feelings towards this film have changed over the week that I was considering it. If we had recorded last Sunday, I would have just walked out of the movie and up to a microphone, and I would have had very different feelings about this movie than I think I have now.
Yeah, and I got a chance to actually watch it and have, digest my own opinions about it. So that means we get to talk about it, all three of us.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. Like any other review we do, we are going to be starting with a non-spoiler section and just talk about our general feelings about the review, and then we will move into spoilers a little bit later. So if you have yet to see Ready Player One, you can still listen to at least part of this conversation. Just watch out for that spoiler section. But first, guys, before we get into this movie, we got to talk about some news.
This is Daily Planet News. I didn't like that.
All right,
Matt,
get into it. Mm-hmm.
Vin Diesel. You like Vin
My
Diesel.
hero?
You're a hero.
I do, yeah.
That's why
I
I
like
picked.
Vin Diesel.
But you don't like Vin Diesel like Matt likes Vin Diesel.
I mean, I like Vin Diesel.
I don't think anybody likes Vin Diesel like Matt likes Vin Diesel.
It's known that I'm fond of Vin Diesel. It's been known for many years. Yeah.
That's true.
Vin Diesel was in the news this week because The Rock was in the news this week. Because
Okay.
I don't know if you remember this, Matt. If you remember the rumors of the contentious on-set relationship during the filming of Fast and the Furious 9. And how the rumors were that The Rock and Vin Diesel did not like each other very much. I think the phrase "candy ass" was used.
Yes, I remember this now. Thanks for reminding me.
Well, we got a little more information on this week because The Rock was doing some press for his upcoming movie Rampage, and someone asked him about his relationship with Vin Diesel, and he had some things to say that led me to believe that The Rock really wants to just beat the shit out of Vin Diesel. First of all, they said that they filmed the movie as if they made it look like they were in the same room at the same time. They never were actually on set together at any point during this movie. It's clever editing tricks. But also,
Wow.
The Rock had this to say. He said, "Vin and I had a few discussions, including an important face-to-face in my trailer. And what I came to realize is that we have a fundamental difference in philosophies on how we approach movie making and collaborating. It took me some time, but I'm grateful for that clarity, whether we work together again or not." And then they followed up and asked him, "Okay, well, are you going to work together again?" And his response is, "I'm not quite sure. Right now, I'm concentrating on making the spinoff." That's the Hobbs and whoever Jason Statham played, spinoff to Fast and Furious they're making. "I'm concentrating on making the spinoff as good as it can be, but I wish him all the best, and I harbor no ill will there, just because of the clarity we have. Actually, you can erase that last part about no ill will. We'll just keep it with the clarity.
He's trying to keep it professional, but he's having a hard time. I would give what I would give to be a fly on the wall during this important face to face.
I know. So, I mean, there's a few different theories on this. I mean, the one thing is The Rock is known to be kind of like a workhorse when it comes to movie making. He approaches it very systematically and says, okay, we're going to do this and then this and then this. And Vin Diesel is, I guess it feels weird to say, he's much more of kind of like an artist, I guess, in that way, where he doesn't view movie making in that kind of checkbox, this type of thing. And I think you take those two personalities and put them together. They're obviously also very strong personalities, and it kind of makes sense why they would not like each other. But on the other hand of the coin, this could just be a fake feud meant to drum up press for their movies.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because wasn't Vin Diesel also in professional wrestling for some amount of time, or is that just not true at all?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I think he may have been very, very briefly. That does tickle a bell as the Vin Diesel fan.
Yeah, as the resident Vin Diesel expert, that's really a Matt question.
Yeah, I think that may be true. You can look that up.
But yeah, I mean, The Rock is his entire career is. This feels exactly like a manufactured controversy to drum up press for whatever this movie is going to be.
Yeah, but I think Vin Diesel, this is not the first person that has had issues with Vin Diesel's behavior during a film. So I get the feeling that he is also kind of a very difficult person to work with. And The Rock kind of came into this franchise in the fifth movie and has become one of the best parts of it. And I think that's something that Vin Diesel would have an issue with. You can call it jealousy if you want, I guess, but he came in, everyone loves The Rock, and now The Rock is getting his own spin-off movie, and I could see why Vin Diesel would have an issue with how these things are going and how those people could get pissed off at each other.
Yeah. I mean, just all the testosterone. That's all it takes.
All the steroids. What?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. What? Scott, how dare you insinuate that the man caught with steroids in his luggage passing through the airport is doing steroids?
Wait, is that true?
Probably.
I don't want to
make up?
get a libel suit here.
Just make up.
I feel like, see, that's the thing. I don't have a citation in front of me, but I'm pretty sure The Rock was caught with human growth hormone in his luggage and was like, it's all just a misunderstanding.
I think that was Sylvester Stallone, actually. But
that might be true.
Same thing.
See, that's the thing. I don't want to besmirch the reputation of the fine Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Well, fortunately,
it's definitely, yeah.
Fortunately, there's a website. There's a website called AreTheyOnSteroids.com.
Well, I guarantee you they are. Not to exaggerate, but they are.
Apparently, Dwayne says he took steroids once when he was 18 and claims to never have touched them since.
Okay. All right. It's possible, I suppose.
I don't know about this. The important part is we learned that AreTheyOnSteroids.com is a real website.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
He may not be on steroids. He may be on growth hormone or something.
Yeah.
I like how currently the news section of this podcast is just me casting completely unsubstantiated aspersions at The Rock.
That's what news is now.
Probably because he was mean to Vin Diesel.
Yeah, and you don't I don't think you're conscious of it. You just someone says something about Vin Diesel, and it's just the hair on your neck stands up, and you're just I gotta do some besmirching.
Yeah, I'm like, I heard The Rock killed someone. I don't remember where.
Look, the Riddick movies are really good, okay?
They're
really good movies.
They are. I like Vin Diesel. There's that one did you see that short film that he did, Matt? Where he was playing a guy trying to on casting. Way back before he got into anything, he made his own movie about the casting process and how everyone wanted him to fit into a certain role because he looked he was a big dude, so he looked like a big dumb guy, so they wanted him to do that role or some ethnic role, and how frustrating it was.
I've heard of this, and I've always wanted to see it, but I never know where to find it.
I will send it to you.
All right.
I'm sure I can find it somewhere.
Wonderful.
And maybe I'll put that in the show notes if I remember to do that. No promises.
Okay.
All right, next bit of news. Moving on from Vin Diesel. Sorry, Matt.
Okay.
Amazon's Lord of the Rings series is going to cost $1 billion and run for a minimum of 5 seasons. That's the deal that Amazon struck with both the Tolkien estate, HarperCollins, and New Line Cinema. Included a 5-season commitment minimum. So, and it was $250 million for the rights, and then with production expenses and the time limit, they have to be in production within 2 years, or else this deal reverts back to the owners. It's going to be like $1 billion. So this is
everything
TV now.
Everything I've heard about the Tolkien estate leads me to ask, why would they let them do this? And I guess it's just a lot of money. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I think also I think Christopher Tolkien has kind of retired, so I don't think he's managing the estate at the level he was before, and I think he was the real holdout of any more licensing deals. So
now they're just going to milk it. We can look forward to hundreds and hundreds. We can look forward to the Lord of the Rings EU now.
So this is the interesting thing, though. We got 5 seasons at least, $1 billion plus. We still have no idea what this thing's going to be. The new news this week, along with this, was that they might reuse some of Peter Jackson's stuff. I don't know what that means. Like, if that means they're going to cut to scenes from the movies, or they're just going to use some of their artistic interpretations, or what. I have no idea what that means. Are we going to see some cast members come into this? We have no idea. We still don't really know if this is just a remake of The Lord of the Rings or not. They've said no to that, but who knows? It's not The Hobbit, I don't think, because I don't think The Hobbit stuff was part of this deal. I don't think... nobody knows what this is.
Yeah. I wonder if it's because they don't know what this is and they're just trying to get the hype machine rolling.
Yeah.
Or if it's because they do have like some creators lined up and some actors lined up and they just are ready to put out the press packages.
Yeah. If I were a betting man, I would say we're going to see a Lord of the Rings prequel that follows the adventures of young Aragorn. That would be my guess. I don't know how much you can do with that. I mean, there's definitely things that Aragorn did as a younger person that could make interesting television, but it would be a very loose interpretation of the handful of writing that's in the appendices.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's all like, it could make very good television in the sense that the phrase, there was an exciting bank robbery, could make very good television. Like, yeah, I mean, if you put the creative energy into it, you can flesh it out into something that's an actual story. But like, there isn't that much material to go off of, especially not that's developed into a concrete, dramatic form. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of like, I guess I understand why they're making the decision. You know, it's a known property with name recognition, so they have an advantage over just doing like Amazon fantasy series number 4. I understand. I'm just obviously cynical in my appraisal.
Yeah, I mean, it could turn out great. It's very obvious that Amazon's chasing the Game of Thrones. They want a Game of Thrones style show, and they want it quick. And the part that worries me most about this news is that 2-year timing issue that you need to be within production in 2 years. Whenever you start rushing stuff like this, I mean, that's what happened to The Hobbit, is they had to rush it all, and it was a disaster.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I don't know enough about the business to know whether 2 years is too soon or not, because
the Lord of the Rings trilogy was in pre-production for 24 months.
Okay.
In pre-production, 2.5 years, I think it was in pre-production, and that was 3 movies shot back to back to back, so you wouldn't necessarily need that much build up. But to go from no script to production in 2 years with something this large.
Well, so counterpoint, the budget of the Hobbit movies was about $700 million, and they made $3 billion. So I think it's just going to make a lot of money regardless of all of these collected facts that we have said.
I think you're right. But this is, that's like, we're seeing kind of peak prestige TV with this, though, because $1 billion budget for a television show is insane.
But is that over 5 seasons?
Yes.
Because then it's only $200 million per season, which is, I don't actually remember what the numbers were for Game of Thrones, but it sounds...
That's on par / more than Game of Thrones per episode.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Well, we don't even know how many... I assume they would do like a 10-episode season like everyone else is doing now, but we don't even know how many.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Amazon, I think, might know what they're doing here.
They got
I'm
the
willing
cash,
to be,
right?
Yeah, right. Maybe it'll be as good as the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones.
Sweet, we got into Game of Thrones burn.
We got plenty of time left too. So run out the clock now.
All right. The final bit of news. This is probably the last Black Panther box office update I'm going to do. Probably. This week, Black Panther passed Titanic to become the 3rd highest domestic grossing film ever, with $665 million. So the only 2 left on that list above Black Panther are Avatar at $760 million and Star Wars The Force Awakens at $936.5 million. I forgot how big that movie was. That's almost $1 billion just in America. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's also now officially in the top 10 of worldwide gross with $1.29 billion. So, yeah, this movie was a success.
Cool. Good.
I'm very curious how Infinity War is going to do when compared to this. I think it's going to do very well. Infinity War is going to make a lot of money. But does it have a chance of capturing this kind of success? I don't know.
I think probably. I don't know. It's got T'Challa in it again prominently.
It does, yeah.
So it's automatically riding on that, and then it's riding on all of the goodwill that Downey Jr. has built up with his franchise. And if you've been a Marvel fan, it's got so many vectors feeding into it. Yeah. This was their whole business model is like, we get fans of this and fans of that and fans of the other, and then everyone shows up for the big giant one where we have everyone. Right. And essentially they'll either prove or they'll disprove their theory. I suspect they're right on some level. So
I do too. And I think that the cool thing about this is actually that you could say like Marvel does make gambles every so often. And I think one of the gambles they made was from the trailers, and maybe this is just they're editing the marketing this way, but from the trailers, it seems like Wakanda plays a pretty pivotal role in the events of Infinity War. And that was something that they had to have made a decision on prior to Black Panther coming out, because there's just no way. Mm-hmm. It's too close. So they kind of rolled the dice and said, okay, are people going to like this story? If yes, great. Now we'll have a big set piece in Wakanda and everyone will love that. If no, maybe we'll just load the Wakanda set piece with as many characters as people love as possible and hope that if people didn't like Black Panther, that'll get them over the hump anyway. So I guess maybe it's not as risky as it seems, but
yeah. I think it's interesting that we're basing a lot on the trailer, which is usually at least somewhat misleading, but also usually somewhat reliable. So
yeah, they definitely could have cut the trailer in a way that emphasizes that scene over anything else, because they know that Black Panther's huge right now.
Yeah,
I'm also going back over the numbers, and it seems like the crossover movies just reliably make ridiculously more than all the other movies. So I think the expectation is pretty high that this movie is going to just destroy.
Yeah, and I think it will. There's a lot leading up to this. I'm pretty excited about it, but it'll be interesting to see if this is. Everyone's been talking about the fatigue. The superhero fatigue, and it's shown no signs of happening. But maybe if this one doesn't perform as well as the last 2 Avengers, we'll see a lot of think pieces about, it's happening.
Yeah, I have superhero fatigue for bad movies.
Right, that's the thing.
Like when they made, I don't know if it was technically back to back, but they made Thor Ragnarok and then Black Panther, and I was like, oh, I suddenly don't have superhero fatigue anymore. That's strange.
Yep.
It's almost like I was just tired of boring movies.
Yeah, it's almost as if we just don't like bad movies, and then when you make a good one, people will like it and give you lots of money for it.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's funny that way.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I had for news this week, guys. So let's do it. Let's talk about Ready Player One.
The Oasis was the brainchild of James Halliday.
Hello. If you're watching this, I'm dead. I created a hidden object, an Easter egg. The first person to find the egg will inherit $500 billion and total control of the Oasis itself.
Who is this Parzival, and how the hell is he winning?
Find him.
This isn't just a game. I'm talking about actual life and death stuff.
The Oasis, the world's most important economic resource.
It's nothing less than a war for control of the future.
Welcome to the rebellion, Wade.
The resignation in your voice is very encouraging. I'm looking forward to this.
Obviously, so this is the no spoiler section. So let's talk about this movie a bit. This was the Steven Spielberg directed movie. I have the IMDb summary right here, which is great. Which is a perfect job. When the creator of a virtual reality world called the Oasis dies, he releases a video in which he challenges all Oasis users to find his Easter egg, which will give the finder his fortune. That's true, but it doesn't really go into why this is such a big deal.
And also has nothing to do with any of the actual characters in the film because it makes it seem like the character, that's funny.
So this is obviously based on the Ernest Cline novel of the same name. I think that book came out in 2009 or something like that. It was basically like the nerd Nirvana book, and got made into a movie by Steven Spielberg, who is referenced in the book about 7 million times. So Matt, what did you think about Ready Player One?
I loved it.
Go on.
I thought this was Spielberg's first attempt to make a movie with the tone of his older movies of the older Spielberg era in quite a while. Not that his newer movies haven't been great, but his newer movies have been very different, and he's been exploring different things. And this felt like a return to my childhood, in terms of the tone, in terms of the sort of story it was, and the feelings that it brings on. I'm fully capable of recognizing that the book, first of all, has plenty of room for criticism, and the movie doesn't it actually does patch over some of the holes in what the book is trying to do, and I think improves it, but it also has some room for criticism. But I just enjoyed watching this movie from moment to moment so much that I have a hard time. It's not that I would even say no, you are wrong in any particular criticism, as long as that criticism were valid. It's more like I can't bring myself to care much about that because I had so much fun watching it.
Okay.
Anyway, that's my speech.
All right. Daniel, how about you? What did you think of Ready Player One?
Yeah, so perhaps unsurprisingly, having shared my childhood with Matt, I agree a lot. I think Daniel aged 6 to 18. This would have been his favorite movie, and he would have when playing and running around the neighborhood, he would have his fantasy world would have been the Ready Player One world, and this movie in particular, because it's just really fun to watch and has cool stuff going on, and I enjoyed the visuals. I enjoyed the ideas of. I mean, it was fun. It was a super fun movie, and it was really cool to watch. I think kind of thematically, if you stand back and don't think of this as just a popcorn movie for consumption of joy, it's it doesn't make any sense at all. If you're trying to get some sort of thematic message out of this movie, it's just completely gone. It doesn't make any sense.
It may even be actively evil.
I think that's not too far of a stretch, actually.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. And So it's kind of funny that like you can enjoy this thing this much, and then it kind of falls apart completely when looked at under any sort of critical lens.
Well,
but I think that's
also,
kind of Spielberg's talent. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think there's some space to push back against the criticisms levied at the themes, which I hope we can get into, because
I think we will.
It's hard to do without a little bit of spoils. But yeah. So me and Dale have said our piece, Scott.
Okay, so I have to be the Michael of this episode. I didn't think this was a very good movie, and I think Steven Spielberg is a very talented director, obviously, and he continues to be one of the best directors out there. I think he can turn some of these set pieces into things that are mind-boggling, and he never loses the thread of it. Like, I think it's very apt to compare this movie to Michael Bay's Transformers movies, and how the action in those gets so lost and messy, whereas the ridiculous action set pieces in this movie are always kind of clear. You can always follow the action. You never kind of lose it. A lot is being thrown at the screen. A lot. Almost too much. Especially in the third act sequence, I think there's almost too much going on at the screen. But you never lose your characters in it. You're always following your characters, and you're always following the emotion of the scene. The problem I have with this movie is I think all the characters are really bad, and I don't care about any of them at all. And that kind of makes the movie not work for me at all. I think it's a lot of fun to watch, and this is what I meant about like getting out of the theater and sitting in front of a microphone. I probably would have been way more positive with it, but the longer I've gotten to sit down and sit with my feelings on this movie and really, really dive into it in my head, the less about it I like. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because like we were saying before we stopped recording, like Spielberg specifically said to the first audience that watched this movie, "This is not a film, this is a movie," that's a really dumb thing to say. But what he means is his goal for this movie was not to do something really rich and thematically deep and complicated. His goal with this movie was to make something in which people get to pretend to be cool people that live in a Tron-like world that get to fight with their toys, and that's yay.
Yeah. Regarding your comments on the characters, I'm vacillating on how to respond to that criticism, because it's kind of like I'm not sure if I cared any more about like characters in Sandlot or Goonies or E.T. Like it's like the kind of movie it is. It's not asking you to do a deep character study. And so like it's perfectly valid to say that you didn't care about the characters, and thus it made you not attached to the drama of the movie. I don't know if I had that same problem. I think I thought the characters were like serviceable, and the acting was serviceable in getting across, the connection it needed to get across. And like I didn't cry in the film, but I'm not sure that the film was trying to make me cry. So I guess, yeah, I feel like it succeeded at what it was trying to do. So if it didn't work for you in other ways, it feels like kind of a weak response to be like, well, I don't know if it was trying to do those things. So
yeah, I think I agree completely. And I think actually that Wade Watts / Parzival isn't even supposed to be a strong character. He's supposed to be something. I think he's just supposed to be like a audience self-insert lens, where like you just want to play around in this world as this guy, and it doesn't really matter that he has no character. That's
awesome in a video game where you're getting to play around in the world, but when you're sitting in a chair watching it, he's the most boring character in the movie.
I mean, he isn't a character, I guess, is my response. Like he's just kind of
the protagonist.
He's a shell.
Yeah,
I don't care though. I just want to like play around in the world. Like I don't.
But you don't even really get to play around in the world, because so much of this is supposed to be wrapped up in his journey as a human, and it just falls so flat because he's not a human. What is like?
He's totally like I almost think it's intentional that he doesn't really have an arc, because it's just like you want to play the video game as Parzival. Like you want to be the guy that wins, that has the battle and fights and is hero's journey. Yeah. But
he only doesn't have an arc in the sense that he doesn't have a character flaw to overcome in the first place. But other than that, he has a fairly boilerplate hero's journey narrative. Like the only thing that's missing is that he doesn't have any catharsis, any moment of like, oh, I was wrong to be this way. I should be this new way due to the things I've learned in my lesson, which I admit is not great storytelling. I guess I can't. I guess like if you put it to me that way, I'm like, yeah, okay, the movie would have been better if they had bothered to give him a flaw to overcome.
Yeah, because
the
movie never punishes him for any of his decisions ever.
Like
ever. Like he is never anything which the movie kind of even almost lampshades as you shouldn't have done that. There's no consequence for it. Like this isn't totally spoilers, but he wins a lot of money at one point in the movie, wastes it all buying shit, and that actually benefits him. Like we have these weird scenes where his aunt is like struggling to make rent, and he gets a lot of money, and then his first thing is, I'm going to buy the holy hand grenade for no reason because I like it. And it's just like the relationship with his family and the relationship between these kids that play together in this game is so weird to me. How did these kids even get together? Like what like where did this come from?
I'm loath to say it, but I think you're thinking about it too hard.
That's not a good reason. We're reviewing a movie.
Well, no, but see, I don't think you're thinking about it too much. It's just, I mean, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the book explains all of that in a way that is fine and satisfactory. The movie doesn't bother to, because I don't think it's important to understand that. Like you don't. Like you just have to know that there's probably an answer, right? Like were you really like, okay, so for example, okay, you have to. I think it's sometimes useful, perhaps, and I'm trying out this idea. So tell me if you think there's any validity to this. But I think it's useful sometimes to actually pay attention to what you noticed in the movie versus what you noticed after the movie. Because like this movie, there was one jarring thing that happened where I was like, that is poor writing. In the moment of watching it, I was like, that is stupid. And like, I can even fix it sitting in my seat in the theater. I can fix how you should have done that, and it would have been better. But everything else, you think of it later. And when you think of it later, I'm not saying don't think about movies after you've walked out of the theater. Obviously, that would be stupid. But what I'm saying is like your tendency to like look for consistency, which everyone has. You have to wonder like, okay, maybe the reason this wasn't conveyed is that it wasn't important to the drama of the moment, and they're just being economical in that case, right?
I think that makes sense. My thing is, I failed to connect to any of these characters, and when I'm looking back afterwards on why I failed to connect to these characters, it's because I just don't think they were drawn in any kind of interesting way, and I never like one of the big things of this movie, one of the big arguments that this movie is trying to make is that these people came to this place to escape from their lives, and what they found was other people. And it's like this thread that all of us have played MMORPGs before. We've experienced this in our lives. We've experienced this idea where you go play a video game and you meet people and you meet friends and you form real friendships and relationships with these people. And it is digital, but it is real. It feels real to you. And I never felt like that was conveyed through this movie at all. I never understood why these people liked each other. I never understood why they were friends. The love, like piece in the center of this movie between these two characters, I never understood where that was coming from and why, other than we both like the same stuff. And that is this movie is we all like the same stuff. We all like the Iron Giant. We all like the Back to the Future, and that's the only thing that matters to connect us together.
So I agree that's what the movie wants its message to be, but I think it's actually just about James Halliday, who's the creator guy. Like he's actually the only character I cared about in the whole movie, and the only one I actually connected with at all.
I agree. Yeah.
And I think it's actually the movie isn't actually about what you just said, even though it sort of wants to be about that. It's sort of about creating something and having people enjoy it because you created it. And I think it's a much more powerful message from that lens. And it absolutely does not connect at all on the lens of, connecting with people in virtual worlds.
Speaking of the characters, I do agree that perhaps it's just because that actor is amazing. That's why it was sold better. But I actually really like the scene where him and his and his best friend are just any scene where it's just the two of them being buds was to me perfectly satisfying. And like even as I was watching it, I was like, this is vintage Spielberg. He's it's capturing the right tone here, and I believe these people are friends and care about each other, even though they're kind of not happy with each other in this moment. I buy their relationship, and that was that. I don't know. I can see not feeling that way, and it's especially hard to do when everyone is a CGI Muppet. But it's I didn't think it was so bad, and this may be down to like subjectivity and taste, which I can accept, like I'm not even what's funny is even though I enjoyed this movie, I'm very capable of also enjoying people ragging on it because usually the criticisms are very valid. It's just like, it didn't change the fact that I enjoyed it sitting in the theater. So I don't know what to say.
Yeah. I would have loved the Halliday movie so much more. I would have loved the Halliday story because I agree. He is the best drawn character in this story. He is the most interesting. The exploration of his life and how people are replaying it is kind of like paramount to what the movie is on one level trying to do. But I think that's just so hidden behind the big
so
race.
Much stuff.
There's so much stuff, so much like just, and like, look, here's the thing. I hated the book. I hated this book. I thought it was terribly written. I thought it was like the worst example of fandom. And just like the idea of gatekeeping based on how much about a thing you know. And I think this movie fixes a lot of that stuff. And we'll go into detail on how exactly it does that in the spoilers. But there's still just this idea of I know the most about the things, and therefore I am the best at all things. And like there's just so many like references and things, and like, look at that, you see that, and it's just like I don't care. Like I don't care about the Chucky doll making his way into the movie, and like it's not. Maybe it's just because I'm like an adult now, and I'm not just like, oh, it's Chucky. Just remember Chucky.
Yeah, but like, I see that's the sort of thing. I think it is maybe an adult thing, because I would have, like, if I'd seen like Overwatch characters as like a 14-year-old Daniel, I would be like, oh, it's Overwatch in the movie, and it would have just been the coolest thing ever. So I can't really fault the movie for that.
People have very different reactions to this, and I think it's interesting and worth talking about as a phenomenon. And by this, I mean the references. Because like I was watching the Red Letter Media review, and they were like weirdly fixated on like they were almost coming to the point of saying people aren't going to like this movie because most people aren't going to get the references. And I'm like, okay, well, I did get most of the references because of how old I am, but I saw this movie with my mom who didn't get some of the references, and it didn't affect her enjoyment that I could tell. And furthermore, I super don't think that your enjoyment of this movie depends on getting the references. Like it's a well-paced and propulsive movie. Granted, your point that maybe the characters could have landed a bit better, but like, who cares if you're seeing the references or if you're just seeing like a bunch of CGI bizarre characters? You're still understanding the point, right? And so and then I don't know. I'm just like, it's interesting because people walk away from this with really bizarrely, to my mind, different perspectives on what the meaning of all the like what we're supposed to do with all the references. And to me, the references are just like, oh, a little bit of sprinkles on top of the movie. It doesn't really change anything for me.
Yeah, but isn't that like, I mean, I think that's what this story is, though. The story is we have taken pop culture and are so obsessed with it that we've just surrounded ourselves with it and we've become it, basically. But I think it's so surface level, and that's one of the things I really want to dive into in the spoiler section. Is that a good thing? if we have taken images and removed them from the context and the meaning that they came from, and just thrown them into a blender, and then just threw it up onto film, like, is that, like, are you really appreciating the reference anymore? Or is it just, look, it's a thing, and I recognize that thing from another thing, and therefore my brain says, I happy. I don't think that's a good thing.
Well, I don't know if I think it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think there's probably a spectrum between, oh, that's the T-Rex from Jurassic Park, I recognize that, and I clapped. And then, like, oh, the Tyrannosaurus Rex represents man's inability to control nature, but his hubristic belief that he can do so, biting him in the ass and destroying him. I'm not convinced that it's bad to only catch the surface reading. I do believe that it's better to think about things more, better in the sense that it's more enriching. But, like, does it hurt anyone to just smile when you see the T-Rex in Jurassic Park? I don't know.
Yeah, so maybe compare and contrast with Wreck-It Ralph, which also was a movie that had, like, tons of little references sprinkled throughout it from video game history. Mm-hmm. And did that bother you at all?
No, but I think that actually, like, that Wreck-It Ralph is exploring video games. It's exploring what the villain imagery means and what that role is and how it fits into the game as a whole. I think the most referential scene in that movie is when all the bad guys are sitting around the table. Just because we're bad doesn't mean we're not good. And I think that's brilliant and hilarious, and it's worked with what the movie was trying to do. This, like, it didn't matter that T-Rex was the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. It doesn't matter that the Iron Giant is in this movie. It doesn't matter that a Gundam is in this movie. None of these things matter to the movie at all. They're just, it's a thing I like. And so it's cool when the thing I like is thrown into a movie with another thing I like.
Yeah, so I think this is a have your cake and eat it too sort of thing, where the movie is trying to say something about, pop culture being filled with all of these things, and this being a world where pop culture is omnipresent, but it's also trying to, like, be a product that we as moviegoers watch. And it's a weird circular thing where, like, is it okay that they have the references when the movie is supposed to be sort of about how culture has gotten to this point that the references are everywhere? Or do you see sort of what I'm getting at here?
Yeah,
like
I do.
It's hard to land that well. And I wasn't bothered by the fact that there were references in this movie. I agree with you that they don't have, like, the thematic umph that they could have. Like, they could have done it better, of course, always.
Yeah.
But, like, I thought it was cool when there was a Gundam. That was awesome.
Yeah, but, like, I guess that's just, like, the fundamental disconnect for me. Like, I love Back to the Future. I don't care that Parzival was driving a DeLorean. That has no emotional reaction to me. It's like, oh, it's the DeLorean. I mean, like, maybe in a time where I couldn't, like, turn around and watch Back to the Future literally any time I want to see the DeLorean, that would have been a cool reference, but that's not the time we live in anymore. So, I mean, maybe that's just me. I don't get excited about an image of something appearing in a movie if there's no meaning behind it.
I think a lot of people have made the point that, like, for this to function as an actually good film, it would have had to, like, critique this clearly pathological thing that the people that like society in this
right.
in this film has collapsed, and everyone is obsessed with pop culture of the past because they're basically literally living in the past to escape from their horrible present, and the main character is basically explicitly the worst of them all. That's why he's able to win the contest.
Yeah.
And like a real, like, a good story, the good version of this book, for example, would have been like, oh, and then he realizes that he's not living in the present at all, and that these images from the past, while they give him a warm, fuzzy feeling in the moment, don't really mean or create anything new, and he learns to put away childish things and be a man, etc. but that's not this movie can't do that and be the fun roller coaster ride that it is, or at least they couldn't see how to do it.
Yeah.
So they didn't.
And I want to be clear that I don't think the message of the movie needs to be put away childish things. I love games and movies. Like, I love all the references in this movie, just about. I love all those properties, and they are important things to me. I just don't see how this celebrates their importance by just dropping them meaninglessly into a thing. But I think it's time. Let's move into spoilers so we can dive into these themes a little more, because there is some interesting things that are going on in this movie that I really want to dive into.
Sure.
Because as much as I've been the negative one here, I do not hate this movie. I think this movie is, off the strength of Steven Spielberg, way better than I ever thought it was going to be.
Me too. I mean, I think if you watched our previous episodes leading up to this, you probably know that I've been extremely negative about this from the trailers and from the book. And I was basically just like resigned to seeing it because we had to talk about it. And I was super surprised that I liked it this much. So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Daniel, any last words before we move into spoilers?
Nah, I can save it for spoilers.
All right. So from here on out, we are full spoilers for Ready Player One. Okay. So there's a few things
you didn't even like the chest burster scene.
I mean, it was
great.
It was
that
funny.
Was great.
It was funny.
Chest burster coming out of a Goro.
You know?
Yeah.
Wow. I don't think I'm the target for this.
Both of those.
I know.
Things.
Here's the one part where I thought the movie actually stumbled into some brilliant stuff. I thought the Shining sequence was fantastic, and I rolled my eyes so hard when they walked into that movie theater. And I'm like, oh, we're gonna do a Shining thing, and then I forgot what happened, but like the doors open up and you're in The Shining, and like the music was perfect, and they even I don't know how they did that, but it felt like it felt right. And I think like if you look back at Steven Spielberg and you see like Steven Spielberg loved Stanley Kubrick, he was one of his heroes, and I think that comes through, and that's why that scene works more than anything, because the rest of these references, half of the stuff Spielberg doesn't even get. And like there's apparently like the animators added a bunch of stuff and never told the director. like they never told Spielberg that the T-Rex was going to be in the movie. They just didn't tell him that. They just animated it in, which is like what? But I think this is the one thing where you can feel this is his thing. This is his reference, is The Shining. This was a very important film to him, and to his education as a lover of film. And I think you feel that. I think the time it goes to set the mood and the fun it has within the world of The Shining, and it kind of loses its way near the end. Like, I didn't love the dancing zombies part of it, but I just thought like that felt different from the rest of the movie in a way that like shocked me how good it was.
Yeah, it made me. I mean, it's fun. It's interesting because it didn't quite land the thematic connection on any of these questions, but it left me wondering, like, is Kubrick and or Spielberg being equated to Halliday here? Like,
yeah,
in the sense of being a creator who feels alienation and so forth.
There's actually a great article on IndieWire written by David Ehrlich that you guys should check out. He's looking into the movie really hard, trying to find something. And the thing he finds is this idea that Spielberg is a creator wrestling with the legacy of his creation. And because he created the blockbuster film, like he is one of the main things responsible for this obsessive pop culture lifestyle that we have now. So this is a movie where he's on some level wrestling with what that means and that legacy and what he's done. I don't think it spends nearly enough time doing that for that to be like 100% his intent behind it, but maybe like on a subconscious level as he was making decisions and choices here. I think he definitely sees a lot of himself in Halliday. Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that's interesting to think about, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's one of the things that I think that this movie does that the book did not do, and that's one of the big things where the movie improves, because the end of this book is basically like, okay, you were the best at knowing random shit, and you won, and now I give you the keys to the kingdom, but I'm also going to give you this shoehorned message about how actually this place isn't that good. And the movie still kind of does that. I think the moral of reality is real and better is kind of completely contradicted by the entirety of the movie we just saw.
Yeah,
but at least there was changes made to where the contests themselves were not just won by your understanding of pop culture. The contests themselves were kind of won by your learning from the mistakes that Halliday felt like he had made. And by learning from the mistakes, you are proving that you are a better person to take this over than even he was. And I liked that little wrinkle to it. I'm glad they added that.
Yeah. It may be that like this source material just couldn't be turned into the movie we want it to be with the story that it had, without just radically changing what, like, this movie isn't The Matrix, right? It's not like,
right.
They're not trying to like lose the video game world. Like the movie doesn't at all grapple with the idea that like maybe they're actually living in a dystopia. It kind of hints at it because like they clearly are, but none of that actually changes in the course of the movie.
No, and in fact, like they win $1 trillion, and their solution to solving the world's problem is, I know the world sucks a lot, but now you have to live in it for 2 days a week. And we could maybe like support like programs that would like give people food and make lives better, but no, just go outside more into the hellhole that exists.
Yeah, like that's one thing that even as someone who long ago kind of rejected MMO type games, and essentially made the same choice as the protagonist sort of makes, that like we should live more in the real world. I don't think that it makes sense to reject this amazing futuristic land of joy and like human connection, which it obviously serves as, in favor of this horrifying dystopia world. And it's like, you could argue that what people really need to do is buckle down and fix the real world, but like, is that really going to happen? I don't think that's really going to happen. So
and the movie can't do that either. Like, it really tries at the end to circle around to reality is better, but the movie itself contradicts that so many ways. And the most glaring contradiction of me is Wade gives this big rousing speech inside the Oasis that like encourages all these people to come to his aid and help him, and there's this big battle in the Oasis. And then in the real world, he's like, hey, people in the stacks, I need your help in the real world, which is supposed to be better. And it works. People come. And then the bad guy pulls out a gun, and it's like, oh, nope, we're done. So the Oasis is definitely better than the real world, according to this movie. Like everything better happens in there. There's not enough good things that happen in the real world to contradict that central message at all. Except, you could argue, the love story between these two characters. See, I couldn't even call. I accidentally called them things because they're not people.
Yeah, they aren't, but it's okay. Like that, they're not people. Like it's the character you're playing the video game in.
I just didn't feel that bad about like I mean, for what it's, I mean, it was is Indiana Jones a real person?
Well, that's
or not?
I think that's way different. I
See,
don't think that's comparable.
But
it might just be that Harrison Ford sells it better than these actors did. I don't know.
Yeah, the acting matters a lot, and these were all like young actors.
Well, I don't want to, I think Olivia Cooke, who plays Artemis, is a great actress. I don't want to take anything away from her. I don't blame her for this at all. Ty Sheridan's fine. I don't think he had a lot to work with, but he's fine.
Yeah, but I don't have a. I guess I don't even have a problem. I misspoke. I think the acting in this movie was fine from them. I think I legitimately think there is not like characters there. Like the movie gives them the smallest amount of lip service to try and make them into real people, but that's not really what it. Okay, how about what is this movie actually trying to say?
I have no idea. Video games are fun.
Matt, what do you think this movie is actually trying to say?
Okay, well, that's
what
that's
is
a
it
hard
trying
question.
to say?
It's
Yeah. Okay, both. What is it trying to say, and what does it actually say?
I don't think it's saying anything. I think it's trying to say that that these interactions are important, and that the people that you meet through this shared love of things is important and real, but also should not be your entire life.
Yeah, but that's completely unsupported by the actual movie.
Yes,
So.
yes.
And again, I think we agree actually that the Halliday part of the story is the heart. So you have to start there, and you say that what the movie is trying to say is that you real people are scary, and real human connection is scary, and it's very tempting to try to escape from that into some other realm where you can disintermediate your interactions with people through art in some way, and that works metaphorically, as doesn't have to just be a VR virtual game world. It can be, you're an artist who uses their art to create distance between themselves and other people, and makes human connection more difficult for themselves.
Yeah.
And the actual lesson is that actually leads to a lonely, sad life full of regret, and when given the chance, the person who makes those mistakes tries to teach the people who are in danger of going down that path that they need to value those friendships or romantic connections or whatever more than they value their mastery of the art. Because like you said, what the movie does do, when the book doesn't do, is emphasizes that you win the challenges through your demonstration that you've been paying attention to Halliday's personal life and his personal lessons, rather than your mastery of the game. So like literally the guy who wins adventure or whatever it's called still loses. You have to have paid attention to Halliday's trick, or his lesson. So yeah, the whole thing is through Halliday's story, which is maybe why it feels a little bit sterile, because you care so little about Percival's actual story relative to that.
Yeah, and so I completely agree, and I think the line of like, "Thank you for playing my game" is like actually the like soul of the movie. Like where he says that at the very end. That was like that was the only thing that I felt emotions about when watching it. So it's like, yes, that is the core of this movie. Why wasn't there more of that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can look at storytelling in general as a way to teach people around you the things that you didn't know at the time. Like that can be storytelling. I mean, that's Steven Spielberg has done that throughout his entire career, that he used movies to, like, I think he said the decision that the dad makes in Close Encounters would have been a decision that Steven Spielberg would have made at the time, but then he had kids and made other movies that show how important those relationships are, as to kind of like correct the mistake he made, or he felt he made in that movie. I think actually thinking about this is why I think I liked the Shining sequence the best, and why it worked the most, because I think this, Matt, that thing you were talking about, the central distillation of learn from my mistakes, is so perfectly presented there, because you have Halliday really liked this woman and wanted to go on a date with her, and she wanted to go dancing, and he took her to a movie instead. And I think the book version of the story would have him just know how to win by knowing The Shining the most.
Right.
But the whole point was diving into this pop culture, diving into the movie, diving into this thing is not the answer. Is the real thing? The thing that you should have done is gone dancing with the woman, and that's why in the middle of this pop culture shell that you've created is the true answer, which is take the woman for a dance. Like that's the choice you should have made, and it's hidden inside these things that you love, these things that the shared love of movies and books and TV and all these things that we all do love, but are not everything.
Yeah. Like, I feel like there's a superior version of this movie which doesn't have the dystopia world, and it doesn't even really have the pop culture references, and it's just like people living. I'm basically just describing like Snow Crash in the Diamond Age, actually, so I'm just going to stop. So it's just some world where like you have people trying to make virtual connections and also like grappling with this idea of like creation and what it means for someone for your creations to like be out in the world and being used. But I don't know. I'm just rambling.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, thinking about it, I don't think it's that Percival doesn't have an arc. I think it's just the movie doesn't really land it very strongly because ironically, the book may actually land his arc better than the movie does because the book is much more clear that he's just like the nerdiest nerd who ever nerded.
Yeah.
And it almost to the degree where when you're reading the book as like a healthy person, you're like this kid has a problem. Like he knows all of the words to every one of these movies. Like he's too obsessed with this. And I think the book, even though the book lacks a lot of self-awareness, I think the book wants you to think that he is obsessed to an unhealthy degree.
Man, I don't know about that. I mean,
see that's I think that's an important thing to get straight about it because the book is saying in the end, Halliday wanted you to think about maybe backing away from things a little bit, which is stupid because he makes the whole challenge based on being obsessed with the shit.
Yes.
So it doesn't actually make sense. The movie makes it make more sense, but loses the fact that like you don't quite get that the lesson this guy needs to learn is like, hey, back off on the minutia and pay attention to people better.
I think Daniel hit the nail on the head when he said that I don't know if there's a way that you can tell that story that does a good job at it because you have this blatant contradiction between. I mean, this book was written for Ernest Cline to celebrate all the things that are so important to him. You know what car Ernest Cline drives around? He drives around a DeLorean with the Ghostbuster symbol on the door.
Yeah.
Like that's why he wrote this into the book because that's who he is. Like Wade Watts is Ernest Cline. That's who he is. So you can't like he would have to have a level of self-awareness to both say these things that are clearly more important to me than anything. Well, actually, that you probably shouldn't do that because that would be basically just ripping apart his entire lifestyle.
Right. Yeah. Isn't it kind of embarrassing to have a DeLorean? Oh.
Yeah. Oh. Oh no. And I don't mean anything against the guy. Like from all the interviews I've seen, he seems like a very nice guy that just really loves this stuff. And I think it's okay to love this stuff. I do. Like there's nothing wrong with that. All of us love movies. We love talking about movies. We love these things. It's just...
It's very strange to make a movie celebrating these ideas when the point of the movie is to maybe not celebrate the ideas so much.
Exactly. And that's why the movie contradicts itself because it can't have both of those things.
Yeah.
It tries.
It's slippery enough though that you don't necessarily notice this while you're watching it.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing.
I mean, like I said, Steven Spielberg, freaking great. And
the
one thing that I didn't like in the Red Letter Media review, Matt, was when they said, oh, he probably was only on set for like 3 days to direct the live action stuff. And then he just let everyone else do all the CGI stuff. And I was like, the CGI stuff has Spielberg written all over it. Like the way Spielberg shoots action, the way he makes things flow, the kineticism of it. That scene at the end when Wade is like trying to put the final key in the lock and Spielberg is just like driving you crazy by like having him move. Like that's vintage Spielberg. That's how he builds tension. That's what he does. And this movie feels like Steven Spielberg all the way through. So I think it's a testament to how good of a director he is that I wonder, would this have just been a trash fire had someone not as gifted stepped up to direct?
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. Yeah. Like I think the only thing this movie has going for it is the like kineticism of Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. So, I mean, if anything, this made me appreciate him even more than I already did as a craftsman for making this as fun as it was based on a story that was really not just fun, but making it actually impactful. Like I forgot the other emotional moment was when Simon Pegg acts for like half a second and everyone cries. Because Simon Pegg is the greatest actor.
So with an American accent. I don't know if I've ever heard Simon Pegg's American accent before.
Yeah, that was actually like, I didn't even know it was him for like the first 5 seconds he was talking. It was like, oh.
Yeah.
Great.
Can I talk about the one scene that I thought was horribly, jarringly written?
Yes.
That was when their, what's her name gets kidnapped. and the first thing that his friend says is like, all right, we need to go hack into the dude's chair. And it's like, it's a complete jarring non sequitur. It's like, why would that occur to you as the first? You need to, like, what, you're going to break into their headquarters and hack into his, like, what are you talking about?
It's okay because his password's on the chair.
Yeah, but only after the guy says that does Percival reveal that he has the password.
Oh yeah,
because
he's
book?
like, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, well, we'll need his password, and he's like, oh,
right.
well, conveniently.
Yeah. Or, I mean, the way to make that scene, that's what's infuriating is the scene works fine if they're just like, well, how are we going to deal with this? Like, and then they could even say something like, the only way to get access is through one of the control seats. And then he could be like, well, I just happen to have the password. And like that would have been fine. Like,
yeah.
yes, corny, but it would have worked. As it was, I was just like, why did you do it this way? This is completely illogical. I don't know. Okay. That was it.
The worst line of dialogue in this movie is, you killed my mom's sister.
Yeah, right.
That's your aunt, Wade. What?
It's
like,
meant to symbolize his emotional detachment from his aunt.
I guess. It's so clunky and weird. Wade is such a weirdo. Like, he tells Artemis that he loves her 10 minutes into their first date, and she's just like, you don't know me at all. And she's right. He doesn't. And then they meet in person once, and he sees her wine-stained birthmark, and he tells her it again, and then she's like,
you look okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Tells her, I don't mind how you look.
I don't mind your birthmark. Oh, okay, then I love you now. You still don't know anything about her. You crazy, crazy child.
Another thing that would have made this a good film, rather than a good movie, would be if
don't do that. I hate you.
Would be if it were implied to the audience that she actually didn't like him at all and was just like using him to try to
that would have been
accomplish
great.
her aims.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Furthermore, making it clear that he was so socially inept that he was just missing this, but you get it as the viewer. But instead, they make it that, oh yeah, she's actually in love with him for some reason.
Yeah, that's so weird. Like, again, going back to consequences, he suffers no consequence from telling a woman you just met that you love her. Like, it's temporary. She's just like, no, you don't know me. Oh, we met in person now, so I do know you. So now I love you.
And why does she seems to be attracted to him too?
But why?
But there's no explanation for. I mean, I guess he's the first guy who solves the thing, which she's kind of obsessed with, but she's not obsessed for the same reason that he is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see why that. I don't know. It doesn't. Again, it's one of the things where you're just like, oh, okay,
don't
whatever.
Think about it too hard. Don't worry about it.
And the core of, I think, what their relationship is supposed to be is that moment when he's trying to decide what he wants to wear to the first date, right? And H is telling him, no, you have to wear something specific, you have to wear something she'll like, and he goes, no, I'm going to wear my Buckaroo Banzai suit because that's what I would want to do, and if she likes me, she'll like that. And of course she immediately does and is like, oh yeah, which, first of all, is this movie meant for children? Because they would not get that reference. No one's seen that movie.
No, I only know what that is because of the book Ready Player One. So
yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so like, he is true to himself by wearing that suit, and she picks up on that, and that's supposed to be their common link. But that's like, relationships are more than just we like the same stuff. Right?
Yeah. In fact, I've seen successful relationships where they didn't like the same stuff.
Right. And I think that's what the world of this book and this movie posits is, you are the things you like. And that's all you are. And if someone else likes the same things that you like, you will have a successful friendship or relationship with them. And I think that's unhealthy. And I think when we start talking about, Matt, you mentioned evil, that's where I start to go. The message of this, the messages behind this movie are, play your games. The most important thing about you is the pop culture that you like, and let's not worry about the decaying real world at all.
Yeah, I think that's the lens you get if you ignore the whole, like, be mindful of your creation.
Right, but again, that feels
angle.
tacked on and not true to the rest of the movie.
No, not the dystopia part of it. The whole James Halliday arc of like, you know, I've having made something and tried to use that to connect to people, sort of like. I think there's a lens of this movie working where you basically only think of the only real character in this movie being James Halliday, and that message is not entirely poisonous. But if you think about, and that's like the content creator relationship of a content creator with the people consuming the media.
I gotcha.
Instead of thinking about, you know, the other direction. The other direction is super poisonous and is an evil movie.
So I want to talk about the Iron Giant real quick.
Okay.
I think it's stupid that the Iron Giant blows people up. And like here, like the common reaction to everyone that has this complaint that you've taken a movie about this creature that was built for war but doesn't want to be that and finds a way to not be the thing it was built to be, and you've turned it into a giant war machine, and someone's like, no, but that's not actually the Iron Giant, that's just an avatar taking the look of the Iron Giant. And yeah, I get that, but like I was saying earlier, that removes the entire context. So it's just like, if you watch the Iron Giant and the thing you come away from that movie is, wouldn't it be cool to hop into that thing and blow people up? I don't know what to do with you as a person. and I think that's what this movie does over and over and over again. And I think that's just the most glaringly obvious symbol of it.
I can't really argue with you there. I mean, like, if you're going to think about it at all, then yeah, like, it made more sense for it to be a Gundam, and it made more sense for it to be any other number of things that, yeah, I'm almost, not that I'm going to do this, but like, I would enjoy someone doing like a Transformers level deep dive into like the symbolic meaning of the businessman being Super Mecha Godzilla. And
yeah, that would be interesting.
Because I agree that it either was chosen without any regard for the meaning, or there's some 5-dimensional chess level meaning that is obfuscated.
I mean,
I like you could yeah, probably not.
You could just go at it at the level of like the culture of this world has gotten to the point that, well, no, I mean that doesn't even scan because it doesn't even make sense. Like, like it was intentional. Like they intentionally did that thing, but that it doesn't make sense still.
It just makes it, what it makes sense as is, it makes sense on the realism level. Like you can buy that there would be a bunch of guys who look like Halo guys. You can buy that there would be 4 guys who look like Ninja Turtles. You can buy that you can buy that there'd be a market for giant robots. Like if that was a commodity that cost effort and money, and then somebody would be like, okay, well then of course in order to complete the collection you need to have the Iron Giant. And no, of course I'm not going to think about whether the Iron Giant is supposed to be a war machine, because what does that have to do with what we're doing here, which is trying to build cool toys?
No.
So yes, it doesn't work like as a thematic metaphor for anything, but it does. But it is realistic.
You're absolutely right that if the Oasis existed in real life, people would blow shit up with the Iron Giant. That is beyond a shadow of a doubt true. I don't think that's a good thing though.
Yeah,
it's like people starting fight clubs after seeing Fight Club. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
It's just that the movie's also trying to make the connection that these characters are people that know like all of the things about pop culture.
Right.
So like you would think that these would be exactly the characters that wouldn't turn the Iron Giant into a war machine, because they know that was contrary to the point of the movie. So
I'm imagining like she tries to fire and the Iron Giant robot just stops and says, "I am not a gun."
On the other hand, if this movie gets a bunch of 15-year-olds to go watch the Iron Giant, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel torn about a lot of this, because if this is introducing new films and new elements of pop culture to people that have never seen them before, that could definitely be a good thing, as long as they get those things in context and don't want to make the Iron Giant a gun.
Yeah, I mean, Vin Diesel deserves better.
Wait. Oh yeah, he did do the voice of that, didn't he?
He did.
I forgot.
He did.
We've come full circle.
We've come full circle. Vin Diesel is the core of all things, and all things return to him.
All right. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to say? One thing I liked, just like in the book, H ends up being a woman playing a giant big guy, and I think that's cool. I thought it was a little weird that like I guess it's good that the movie just presents it as a thing and doesn't really do anything with it, but I feel like you should explore that a little bit, because like that's one of the powers of the Oasis, is someone to project the person that they want to be, not the person that they are. And it felt a little weird that it's just like, oh, H is actually a woman. We're not going to mention this at all. Like the characters just look at each other and then move on.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, if the movie makes a point, if anything, it's in having the other characters just like aggressively not care about it.
Yeah,
they're like,
which is good, I think. They're very accepting, but I would have liked the movie to do a little more with it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that theme was already completely exhausted by the Bruce Willis classic Surrogates. So they just don't do that in movies anymore.
I haven't thought about that movie in a long time. That's a deep pull.
Yeah.
I liked that Ben Mendelsohn's character, his avatar was just larger businessman.
Yeah. Oh, we haven't talked about the best element of the whole film.
T.J. Miller's character.
T.J. Miller's character, which was just my favorite thing. I laughed so much. And
I did feel a little weird about that, because of course T.J. Miller, since filming this movie, has had many assault allegations thrown against him. He's not a good person, but
okay, well,
but so the marketing kind
I didn't know any of that.
Well, no,
so.
and I think that's fine. The marketing chose to kind of ignore him, like he's not in any of the trailers. He did none of the press for this movie, but he has a very distinct voice, so that's very much T.J. Miller, and he is funny. There is a certain true to life gamer element in his character.
Yeah,
that I think is very funny. In that he tries to be this badass, like tough talking bad guy, but really he just cares about all his loot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I mean his character is probably the most satirical element of the film. The only other, the biggest gag for me actually was completely straight faced and not winking at the audience. The when the businessman is like, with our next generation, we'll be able to sell up to 80% of our users' visual field, and it shows the image with just like 1,000 ads, and because it's played so straight, I just laughed probably laughed for like 45 seconds, like awkwardly in the theater.
Wasn't it like studies have shown we can cover up 80% of their view space before they are induced to Caesars, and they're just like totally straight about that.
Yes.
But that's a weird thing too, because the stakes of this movie are weirdly low, because like it's not like IOI is going to shut down the Oasis. They're just going to be like any other company in real life would do to it. And that's why, like, the part of the message of this movie is this: the people who really love this stuff versus the evil corporation that's going to try to control it and manipulate it, which is ironic coming out of a giant corporation that's making this movie to manipulate you into liking all these things. But that's another conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do sympathize with wanting, the internet to be uncontrolled, which is basically what this is. But
right.
I see your point.
And that's I don't think that, like, in the book, Halliday made the Oasis free, and they didn't say that in the movie. I don't think.
I thought they did toward the very beginning when he's kind of explaining what it is.
I would have liked to see more of how much everyday life took place in the Oasis. Like, I think a scene where they're in school in the Oasis would have been a good thing, and maybe that got cut somewhere.
Because that was in the book.
Yeah, like it did good to show you just how much of everyday life is plugged into this thing. Which, if that's true, and you don't let people go 2 days a week, can you just like not buy things for 2 days?
Don't think about it. It's too hard, Scott.
What if it's your job? What if your job is in the Oasis and you can't go in for 2 days a week?
Yeah.
But I want my weekend to be Saturday, Sunday. I'm sorry. It's a Tuesday, Thursday. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's closed. Get a life, man.
Go make out with your girlfriend. Unless you don't have one. Sorry.
Yeah.
Unless you're in poverty, which,
Yeah.
What a problematic message in a movie.
All right. Anything else about Ready Player One? This is a good conversation. I'm happy with the way this went. I'm glad you guys liked the movie so much.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I got all my loves and hates off my chest.
All right.
Same. I think we're actually pretty much all on the same page.
Yeah. I think you guys are a little more positive than I am.
I think we just enjoyed it to different degrees, but we actually have the same assessment.
Yeah, I think that's very true. All right, let's talk about what we have been watching.
What have you been watching? What have I been watching? Well, I asked you first, so you better tell me.
And this is the segment where each week we'll just talk about some stuff that we've seen or played or read or did or stuff that we don't want to give a full review for, but just want to talk about a little bit. So, Daniel, what have you been doing?
I have been rewatching the Harry Potter movies, and I've gotten through 1 and 2. So I should contextualize this as that I'm actually like the same age as the actors in the Harry Potter movies when they were coming out. So it was actually somewhat, part of my culture growing up to like watch the stuff as they came out and like, hey, it's like I'm in Hogwarts. But like going back, they're pretty objectively bad movies. But it is interesting how kind of you still just want to go to Hogwarts because Harry Potter's great and a great world to live in. But I don't think I fully appreciated at the time how fan servicey the movies are and just kind of disconnected blobs of, oh, another scene from the book. Oh, another scene from the book.
I'm very interested in if your opinion of that changes as you go through them, because the first 2 movies are very much that. They're so hooked onto the book instead of being an adaptation that they just go and then the movie's over and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. So I'm excited to rewatch the 3rd one, which will happen soon, because I remember liking that one pretty much the most of all of them.
Yeah, that's.
And I remember it. Yeah, it's directed by Alfonso Cuarón, I think.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. And then for some reason they didn't keep him for the rest, even though that was like.
I think he said no, to be honest.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
I think that was also the best book, honestly. So.
It was
good.
It was right. Yeah. The 3rd and the 4th books were right about the time when it fully abandoned the whole boarding school adventure thing and became something very, very different. And I don't think it was ever as successful as that different thing than it was as being the fun boarding school adventure.
Yeah. Well, so wait, is the 3rd one Azkaban?
Yes.
So that's the one where it makes the transition, and I think it strikes a good balance between the boarding school and the dire consequences stuff. And I agree that I prefer the boarding school stuff. In general.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that the 4th one is the transition. We could talk forever about this because the 4th one has a lot of that threshold crossing feeling to it as well. The end of the 4th one being the death of Cedric Diggory. Is that a spoiler?
Spoilers.
It's so.
How many years ago was that?
Spoilers.
Oh my god. Mute.
But that feels like a very much threshold cross thing. But I think if you look at the 3rd book, you do see that is really the school portion of the story starts taking more and more of a backseat after that one.
Yeah.
But I just want to go to wizarding school.
I know.
That's all I really
want.
want.
So fun.
Someday, Daniel, don't worry.
The 4th book is the one where wizarding school has become so mundane to Harry Potter that he's not actually like excited about going back anymore. He's just like, learning magic. Ugh.
Yeah.
It's like, Harry, you unappreciative
he becomes Quentin.
Bastard. Yeah. It's a great magician's pull.
I mean, I get the feeling that the author of that book was thinking along those lines.
I think he probably was.
So,
all right, Matt, what about you?
I watched a few episodes of Chef's Table, which is much better than I kind of thought. Like I've been programmed to think of these like cooking shows as like, oh, it's gonna have yelling and a really arrogant chef and hurt feelings and maybe some sort of reality TV show element to it. But this is just like a series of like each episode is like an hour-long documentary on a different chef and their amazing adventure through life and their stories and their food and their philosophy. And it's quite moving. Like it affects you a lot for being a documentary. And I recommend those. My mom recommended like 3 of them. We kind of like picked and chose among the episodes.
Cool.
It's great.
What's
and then
that,
I've watched
what's that
more.
on Netflix?
Yes, it's a Netflix original. Have y'all watched those at all?
I have not.
I have not, but I've heard very good things about it.
Yeah, people have been telling me to watch that.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it was worth it. And then I watched more Black Mirror episodes because I only watch things when someone's visiting me.
Which ones did you watch, Matt?
I watched San Junipero and Shut Up and Dance.
Did San Junipero just devastate you?
It did.
Did you cry
I was
like a baby?
No spoilers.
It was so sad. It was so sad.
Yeah, it was beautiful though.
Yeah, I was so happy that it existed, and I was like, "What a beautiful story!" And I got it. Like I got what was going on almost immediately, which I think most people don't because I watch so much science fiction stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's fine. Didn't affect my enjoyment. Yeah, that was great. And then Shut Up and Dance. Like I can't watch too many of the stressful ones in a row, and Shut Up and Dance is definitely one of the stressful ones.
Which one was that one? I can't remember.
That's the one where the kid gets malware on his computer and he does things which get him blackmailed.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's one of the stressful ones.
You watched 2 very emotionally different episodes of that show.
Yes. Well, they tend to be that way, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
But yeah,
Daniel, you haven't seen Black Mirror yet?
I've seen like 1 episode of Black Mirror.
You gotta get on that shit, man.
I know. It's
you would love it.
Me.
There's only like 7 or 8 of them that are amazing, life-changing films.
Yes.
That are somehow all part of the same TV series.
Fine.
Matt, I can't remember. Have you watched any of the newest season? The Star Trek one?
Yeah, I watched the Star Trek one.
Yeah, we talked about that on here, I think, before. Yeah.
I'll watch more of them probably by the end of the week, actually.
Sweet.
So that was my weekend.
All right.
Actually,
I got a bunch of stuff, guys. So I'm gonna try to go quick here, but I have things to say about each of these things. So the first thing I saw is the new horror film, A Quiet Place, directed by John Krasinski. And I think this is his 3rd movie he's directed, but definitely the biggest one he's directed. This stars him as well as his wife, Emily Blunt, and 2 kids. It's a really basic concept about post-apocalypse monster alien things who can hunt by noise, so they have to be really silent. And this, I really, really liked this movie. I think it's one of those things where the concept is so simple. It's just, okay, noise bad. Here's a family trying to survive in a world where noise is bad. But it's just so well executed. The sound editing and mixing was done so well to where there are noises. Like you know how horror movies do that thing where like when they're like building up tension and then when they release tension to scare you, it's usually like a really loud noise. And it doesn't make sense why that noise is mixed so much louder than anything else besides we want to scare you. It happens in this as well, but that makes sense within the context of the film because it's so quiet throughout every other part because no one's saying anything, that when a noise comes, it being loud is jarring and totally overpowering in a way it should be within the world of the film. It's great. It's so well done.
It's like someone was thinking about how horror movies are made and like, what if I made that part of the plot?
Right.
That's cool.
It's so good. It's 90 minutes long. It's like the perfect length. It's simple. It doesn't get too complicated. It just executes on this premise and says, okay, what would be cool ways for people to be challenged in a world in which these are our issues, and go. And we think up all the cool premises and tie it together with this family struggling to rebuild and survive in this, and it's great. It's great. See that movie.
Cool.
So
yeah,
a lot
I
of
want
people,
to.
there's a lot of people like, oh, it's a PG-13 horror movie. That means it must be bad. That's dumb. Don't listen to those people. It's stupid.
Okay.
I'm so hyped. I need to see this movie immediately.
The next movie I saw was Blockers, which also came out this weekend. This is the comedy directed by Kay Cannon. It stars Leslie Mann and John Cena, and this is the most surprisingly sex-positive movie I've seen in a while, because the concept of this movie is these three girls are going to prom and they have a sex pact to lose their virginity at prom, and their parents find out about it and try to stop them. And you think from that concept you're going to be like, oh my god, this is going to be another like ragging on kids for all the stupid things they do. But actually, the world of the movie posits that the kids are the ones behaving normally and the parents are the ones that are insane. And I think that's a very smart decision, and it makes for a pretty funny, surprisingly emotionally affecting comedy.
Cool. That sounds fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. Not the best movie I've ever seen, but it was funny in times, and I think it's about as good of an examination of teen sexuality and growth and how parents deal with that you're going to get in like a big budget Hollywood comedy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good. It's good.
I like the premise.
Yeah. All right. The next thing I saw was The Director and the Jedi. This is the feature-length documentary that's included with the Last Jedi special features. You guys need to watch this. It's really, really good. It's one of the better behind-the-scenes looks into making a movie that I've watched. Rian Johnson has been a director that I've always liked, but having experienced him go through the process of making this movie is very eye-opening, and it really bums me out that there were a lot of people that had a very negative reaction to this movie and decided to take it out on Rian Johnson, because this is a documentary that shows the emotional strain being put in charge of a series like this is. And you see him excited, you see him nerding out, you see him like pumped that things are working and clicking. And then you see moments in this movie where he's sitting down talking to his producer and he's like, man, I think I got to rewrite that entire opening scene. I don't think it's working. And you see like the weight of Star Wars resting on his shoulders, and how serious he takes this, and how heavy this burden is for him, and how stressful and exhausting. And it's hard to imagine someone watching this movie, even if they didn't like the film that it was created from, and saying, Rian Johnson, you destroyed our beloved thing because you didn't care about it enough. Like, I can't imagine these people. I mean, of course they're going to, because these people are crazy. But it's just a really powerful look at a kind, talented, passionate director.
Yeah, that sounds. I'm like immediately very interested in that. I didn't know that. So that's the special features. So it like comes with the movie.
It comes with the movie. Yeah, it's on
okay.
It's full. I think it's an hour and a half long. There's a bunch of other features on there, but that's the big thing they were selling. This full, and it follows basically from pre-production all the way through the end of production. His journey through this whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
and,
that's
I want to get that.
That's super cool. I wish there were more like just director/author commentaries of things, because I just like process stuff like that.
Yeah.
What people are thinking.
And also there's a lot of I've seen a lot of narrative around there, like especially we were talking about Stanley Kubrick in this thing, and Kubrick was the type of director that tortured his artists, his actors, to get a good performance out of them. And there's a lot of sentimentality around this idea that you need to suffer to make good art. And Rian Johnson is not that kind of director. He is kind, like they would show them shooting scenes and then he'd call cut and he'd run up to his actors and say, that was great, good job. And then like, or if he had notes for them, he was always kind and always supportive of them. And you can get good performances out of people that way. You don't have to be the Hitchcock Kubrick slave driver that we built up these auteur directors to be. And I like seeing that kind of positive image of directors as well.
Yeah. Right. I mean, if anything, it's sort of like Rian Johnson, it's so much harder on him because he is an empathic person.
Right.
But I would argue it's a better way to exist and probably results in a better product.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It's cool.
All right. That's all I'm going to talk about. I had one more thing, but we'll save that for another time. We've been going on for a while. So that's all we had for you guys this week. If you have any questions or comments or just want to say hello, you can reach out to us via email at dailyplanetfilms@gmail.com or on Twitter @dailyplanetfilms. We do try to respond to just about every message we get, so feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, and if you're not already subscribed to this podcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else podcasts can be found.
Yeah, we've got tons of great content here and more stuff coming each and every day. Well, not every, almost every day. You can find all these shows and more at dailyplanetfilms.com. And if you like what we are doing here and want to support us, consider becoming a patron of the Daily Planet. You can pledge just $1 a month or whatever else you can afford to help ensure we keep growing, keep making new stuff, and keep getting to do this stuff that we love so much. References, Iron Giant, movies. We do have tons of great patron exclusives for you guys, so check them out over at patreon.com/dailyplanetfilms.
Yeah. Also, please consider rating and reviewing us on iTunes. Every review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content we make here. And we actually have a review to read this week for the Daily Planet podcast, which comes from Bobby, who gives us 5 stars and says, I came to the Daily Planet podcast through the We've Got Worm series, which I highly recommend. This is a very solid podcast, well produced, with good discussions regularly. I also really enjoy the spin-offs. We've got Worm, About a View, and So-Called Writers.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bobby. We appreciate that.
I enjoy those too. I enjoy So-Called Writers. When's that coming back?
Oh, whenever there gets to be a few more hours in a week.
Oh, no. Oh, no. All right, that's all we had for you guys this week. Next week, we are going to do another one of our patron-produced episodes. That's when our patrons at a certain donor level get to select something for us to do a show on, and we will do it, anything they want. And patron Amy has asked us to do a show all about the 2016 Denis Villeneuve science fiction film Arrival. And Matt, I think if you recall, Arrival was a movie we gave the Best Picture award of 2016 to, the Golden Planet Award, which is definitely a real award that means a lot of very important things. Definitely.
Oh, yes. I think Villeneuve was very happy to hear that he'd received that when I called him.
We mailed that right to him.
Yeah.
We have never gotten an opportunity to really dive into this movie and do a deep dive, examination of the film. So I'm pretty excited. I'm excited that I get to go rewatch this movie because I love it so much. And I'm excited to really dive into it and talk about it. So check back next Monday for that episode.
Podcast is over, it's done. We hope you all had some fun. Go back to your work or your school, maybe the gym. Hey, that's cool. Regardless, just